Welcome back, everybody, for another week of the Jader and Kyle Show, another episode. We've had a tough week here in America, and I know you guys are used to our show being this fun thing, but we decided that we have to take a little bit of a turn this week because you can't ignore what's going on. I know a lot of shows out there are going quiet this week, are not putting out episodes, but we felt like it was best that we speak on these issues because it's not good to be silent. So I'm gonna be joined by my buddy Jader. Jader, what's going
Your
on,
brother,
man?
baby. Your brother. Say it. Say
All right.
it. Say it, bro. Your brother.
All
I am
right,
your
all
brother
right.
in all this, man. I am good.
Yeah, how you doing, man? It's good to see you.
I'm doing great, man. It's crazy. The shit that not us personally. I'm very sure that we've all been, somewhere down the road. In fact, I have a little story that I might share with you guys tonight. It's been kind of a
Yeah, it's a weird week in a way, but it's a powerful week. Like I'm really glad that this week's actually happening at this moment.
Yeah.
But I know you guys might be expecting us to talk about Back to the Future. That was supposed to be our episode today, but we decided it's best not to do that. We're going to push that to next week. This week, right now, we're going to talk about Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. But before we get to that, we're going to address everything that's happening right now in the country because it's a very serious time. But Jader and I decided that it's best for us not to talk about it alone. We wanted to bring in a voice that needs to be heard from a different perspective, a different view. And that voice was Janine the Machine. Janine,
hi.
Thank you for joining us. I'm so happy to finally have you on.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this movie. I love it so much. And yeah, it's just been crazy out there right now. So I'm really glad we're talking about this.
So we live on different coasts. Jader and I are here in Florida and you're over there in California. What's it like over there in California during this week? Because we have a different perspective over here, but I'm sure for you guys it's way different. So yeah, please, let us know what's going on over there.
Well, I'm not quite in LA. I'm about 3 hours away. So I've been getting updates from my friends who are in LA. I think the protests have gotten a little bit more peaceful. I've seen some things from like Danny Fernandez, her social media, and I know Kevin Smith, he lives in Santa Monica, so I saw a lot of kind of craziness going on around where he lives, but all that has kind of calmed down, and there's like been videos of people helping clean up the city and stuff like that. So I feel like stuff in LA has calmed down a little bit. Here where I live in Fresno, we've had pretty much peaceful protests. There haven't been any crazy kind of rioting or looting or big, huge police intervention. So we've been able to kind of protest peacefully here where I live. So.
And, for the most part here in Florida, I feel like that's been the same thing. But, you look around the country and even if you watch the media, it's not all the same. There's violence out there. But what we need to keep in mind is it's all for a good cause. Yeah. And that's what this is. What I don't want to lose sight of throughout this discussion, after this, when we're moving on in our lives, is not to lose focus of what this is all about. This is about the end police brutality and for Black lives to matter as much as every life should matter.
Definitely.
I was at a protest yesterday, and a cop got up there. It was held by the police, and a cop got up there, and he started saying Black lives matter, white lives matter, all lives matter. And then we had another woman, an activist, come up, and she said the good officer said all lives matter, but not yet, not until Black lives matter, and that's what's true right now. You have to focus on whose house is on fire, who's being attacked. And it's for centuries. I mean, I speak, I'm a white man. I can't speak for you guys. But I can see what's happened ever since I've been alive. And you look in the history books and all these other instances, this isn't the first time this has happened before. So it's important to finally make a difference in this world. And, Jeannie, and I want to hear your perspective on what's going on and how you feel about this movement as compared to others.
I think it's important for the message to not get muddled as well. Like when Kaepernick was doing the kneeling, people weren't remembering why he was doing that. They were just focusing on him doing that, and it's against the flag and it's against America. They weren't focusing on why he was even doing it in the first place. And I think that's what happens with kind of the looting and stuff like that. That's what the narrative kind of goes to. And people are forgetting why the looting is happening. It's because we're fed up, we're angry, and we want to be heard for once. So I think with that, it's definitely important to not muddle the message and forget why these things are happening. Like, people aren't going crazy and wrecking things and being loud and, out in the street for no reason. Like, you can't forget the underlying issue, the main reason why we're even so angry to get to that level in the first place.
Right. And it feels, this movement we're having right now feels different than all the other ones we've had before. It feels significant. You look at, like, today, I saw the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was taking a knee in solidarity with the United States and with the Black Lives Matter movement. You look across, there's like 13 countries that are doing it too. Every state has had protests going on. This is a big thing right now. And you brought up the NFL, Kaepernick. I think Kaepernick is a very big factor in all this. You saw the NFL just literally about an hour ago, Roger Goodell saying that they were wrong. And man, to me, you could save that BS apology, Roger Goodell. You guys made your decision years ago. I don't want to hear it. Him and the owners. You guys blackballed Kaepernick out of the league and misrepresented what he was standing for. So, Jader, I want to get you in on this conversation a little bit too. What's been your perspective?
I was like, I've been posting everywhere right now, like getting our stuff out there. Honestly, with the whole San Fran thing, I haven't been so pissed off in a while, especially in the whole bullshit situation that we're in right now. All right. But what I mean by that is that everyone, and it's going to go back to, this is what I'm saying right now is going to go back to what Spike Lee was trying to say with the film. But overall, this is all BS that's been going on for such a long time. And I feel like it's very hypocritical what the NFL, not the NFL, a lot of the NFL, but especially the San Francisco 49ers, how, everyone has been saying, why is everybody causing riots? Why are buildings being, why is everything on fire and this and that? People had issues from the moment Kaepernick, kneeled. And that was a peaceful protest on what was going on. And, why is he doing that? And bullshit, yada, yada, yada. And then now we have what's going on now. And they're like, well, why are people, protesting peacefully?
Yeah.
So it's a lose-lose situation no matter where you look at it. And it sucks. It sucks, and it's something that it's frustrating. It's frustrating and it's frustrating because, like I was telling Kyle earlier today, I honestly have a lot of friends that are police officers, right? Most of them are Hispanic because where I live here in Miami, it's mostly Hispanics that live here. And I literally, when all the BS was going down here, because we had protests down here and we had riots down here, all that shit was going down. I reached out to every single one of them where I was like, hey, are you okay?
Yeah.
Now, am I with the whole Black Lives Matter? Absolutely. Human at the end of it, and I wrote this. I didn't know. And when I posted the Blackout Tuesday on my picture, I didn't know if I was gonna get any slack when I wrote "We all bleed the same blood." I didn't mean it in a derogatory way because there are people that are writing, "All lives matter." Yeah, no fucking shit. I know that. I know that all lives matter. That's not the point of this. And I didn't want when I wrote "We all bleed the same blood," it wasn't a knock or anything on Black Lives Matter by any means. It wasn't. That wasn't the case by any means. For me, it's more than that. We're unified. Like I said, we have Kyle, which is. Well, Kyle, you can't claim all white. You're part Colombian.
I'm technically Hispanic, and it's weird.
Technically, but I get that. I'm all Hispanic. I dealt nowhere near as bad, to be honest with you. But I've had discrimination towards me here in Miami. I've got pulled over by the police, and I've gotten you're drunk, you have drugs because of the way that I look, when it's not the case. It wasn't the case at all. Now, 9 times out of 10, have I been drinking, before? Yeah. But that day, by coincidence, and I promise you, by coincidence, I wasn't drinking that day, which is the most like absurd shit to me, that out of all days where you could be right, you were completely wrong, and you were an arrogant asshole about it. But again, this isn't a knock on police by any means, because I have friends, dear friends that I've grown up with, where their parents have been police officers, where they lost their lives behind the line of duty through bullshit, And again, this isn't a knock towards that, but I reached out to them and I wanted to get them on the show, to be completely honest with you, to kind of have that perspective. And not only that, I don't know, Janine, like this picture kind of went around the internet where we've had, the protest with the cops kneeling, saying like, hey, we're with you.
Yeah.
My friend was the one that was front and center on that picture, and I'm so proud of him. Just like I was proud of this guy yesterday, where he went out and he protested, and he had a sign up saying they can't breathe, because fuck, we're behind this shit. We're human. At the end of everything, we're human.
And that's something we want to touch on too, is what started all this was George Floyd. Anyone who watches that video and is not disgusted by what they're seeing, you really need to take a look in the mirror and think about who you are as a person, because clearly there's something wrong there. That these 4 officers, well, the one officer with the knee on the neck, but then the 4 officers who didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, and they're all on top of him as well. Like, why is that necessary? At a certain point, you have him down. Why aren't you picking him up and putting him in the car if you think he did something wrong? Why are you now holding him down this whole time? 4 of you to 1. Like, why is that even necessary? It's crazy. And I saw like this lady on Facebook. She like posted this joking video, like putting her knee on somebody's neck, and thought it was so funny. It's disgusting.
It's disgusting.
So, I can't imagine people seeing that and like trying to twist the narrative on that and not feel something in that moment. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just scary that some people might think that that's okay. Like, I've been hearing things like, well, did you hear George had drugs in his system? And it's like, no, what makes this different from everything else?
It does, and exactly. I literally, I think it was yesterday while I was at work, where they're like, oh, he was in a porn video before. I'm like, what fucking difference
does it matter?
From the moment, from like literally from where he was at, what difference does that make?
Yeah. And even if your perspective is all lives matter, well, that's a life right there. That doesn't matter to you. Like,
exactly.
And here's the thing. It's totally bullshit. This man had the knee on his neck for 8.5 minutes and narrated his own death. Yeah. And the cop did nothing about it, but probably press harder. Like this, it's disgusting. So something else I want to touch on in this is distracting from the issue. I'm seeing a lot of this. Like, yes, there's looters out there and people are destroying businesses and homes, and it's terrible. But if you're more upset about that than about the police brutality and George Floyd's murder, then you really need to reconsider what your values are, because it's like when I was at this protest yesterday, there was a red truck circling us twice that had a Confederate flag flying. And then at the end of the protest, there was 3 trucks that drove by with Trump 2020 flags and honking at us. Like, it's just one of these things where these protesters aren't the ones inciting the violence. No. It's the other side. These people are trying to make a change actually. And whenever people bring up other issues, don't lose sight of what's most important, and that's fixing this police brutality and making sure Black lives actually matter.
Yeah, agreed 100%, man. And have you gone out, Janine, or have you been? I mean, whatever you want to say, or whatever you're comfortable with. It's up to you.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to really go out there and be in any kind of protest or anything, and it's not really like a huge thing in my area right now. And I've just been kind of working a lot too. But I'm glad things here have been, fairly peaceful. And I'm hoping to see more of that, kind of just letting people, march, letting them walk, peaceful assembly. That is a right. That's in the Constitution. People want to throw that, they have the right to bear arms. They can have all their guns. They can have all the guns they want. Well, they can also peacefully protest. So I just hope it continues to be peaceful protesting and letting people say their piece and letting people have their voice. But yes, I personally haven't been in any protests yet.
Okay. No, that's fine. That's fine.
Now, Janine, how do you feel about all these other voices who are joining the Black Lives Matter movement right now? Like, as opposed to 4 years ago when this was all happening, like, what feels so different, or how people are jumping on board to be a part of this? Like, what have you noticed out there?
It's been just pretty incredible. I think white privilege is something maybe not a lot of people understood. And now they're actually taking that time to educate themselves, which is really important. And I don't think they were really taking that time before. And knowing that their voice amplifies the voice of a Black person. And I think that lesson in itself is enough to make the movement bigger. And I think that's just amazing. I think that was maybe the issue before, maybe because, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I was on a call with a bunch of friends and they're all white, and they were all kind of acknowledging their white privilege and saying, we totally understand that we have this privilege. We've never had to have that fear when we get pulled over or been followed into a store because somebody thinks we're stealing. We've never had that feeling because that's our privilege. And one of the friends on the call, he just did not understand what white privilege was. He got very defensive. I think he just heard the word privilege and took that as like,
bullshit that doesn't happen.
A rich white guy who thinks he's better than everybody. I think he just hears privilege and thinks we're saying he thinks he's better than anyone. He thinks we're calling him a racist.
Right.
Like all the white people in this chat were like, no, like white privilege is us not having that fear based on our skin color. Like that's what white privilege is. And he just was not getting, he was getting defensive. He was telling us all to like, fuck you. And then he kind of stepped away from the camera. And then so I kind of said, I don't think he understands what it means. I really don't think he gets what it means. And then he comes back on screen and says, fuck you too, Janine. And I'm just like, what is happening right now? And then he just sends like this BS apology that's like, I'm sorry, but I've also had a hard life. Like, because I've been in the military and I was a military brat. And no one's saying you're not allowed to have a hard life.
Yeah.
Like saying that. But you haven't had a hard life based on what you look like, being a Black person. I've been pulled over at times and I'm terrified. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going to happen. And you have never had to go through that. But he just was not understanding. He was getting really defensive and pissed. And I think he thinks we were like calling him a racist or something. And so I haven't talked to him since. I don't know if I want to talk to him if he's not ready to try to understand what he said was wrong and try to understand what we were actually trying to tell him. But yeah, there are people out there who just don't get white privilege. And I think now that more people are, and they're taking the time to educate themselves, I think that's what is making this bigger than what it was years past.
And it sucks because and that's literally the nicest word that I can use to describe literally everything that's happening, right? Yeah. But it's also a beautiful thing because I have never seen, as right or left or whatever you want to call it, I've never seen so many people united for a cause, right? And it sucks that it got to the point where it got, but dude, there's riots happening, or like not riots, a protest happening in France. That for me is like, holy shit. And it was Steven Jackson Sr. I don't know if you guys follow him on
former basketball player.
Yeah, former basketball player. He had George Floyd's daughter, and he's holding her, going like this, and she said, "Daddy changed the world."
Oh yeah,
that has never touched my heart. That it's incredible, and I'm like, absolutely, like he did. It sucks that it happened the way that it did. Yeah. It really does, because that was straight up murder. And I feel not only the main guy, and this is the craziest thing, right? I care to know who George Floyd is. I don't know the names of the police officers, that detained them, that held them, that killed them. I don't care what their names is because they're irrelevant to me.
Yeah.
You know? And for me, seeing her and seeing that whole, video fucking touched me so much because, dude, I have a little girl too, you know? And again, it's not the same. Even I'm Hispanic, I'm still a minority in this world, but I know the African American community has it so much worse than we do. And again, even here in Miami, where we're all Hispanic, I still got discriminated that one night that I was an alcoholic thug, what have you, and that fucking cop, I'll never fucking forget. And I don't want to, again, I just said fucking cop, and I don't want to shit on officers because there are a lot of good ones, And I've been seeing everybody repost the whole Chris Rock saying like the few bad apples. And I don't know if you guys have seen that.
Pilots and all that. Yeah.
The pilots, we have a few bad apples. Even that, like, it's funny. Don't get me wrong. Chris Rock is genius.
Yeah.
But there really are. Unfortunately, you shouldn't have it, but there are a few bad apples not every cop is bad. They're not.
Yeah.
And I can vouch for them because my friends are good people that had been raised. We got raised in a certain way, in a certain hood, like not hood, but we didn't live in the best neighborhoods, but we still have our lives. We still got dealt with. Like I remember, and I'm not gonna throw his name out there, but I remember that we got pulled over one time because people thought we had drugs in the car, and we didn't. We were just a bunch of kids trying to get to a fucking party.
Yeah.
And it literally sucks that the career choice that they had, and a lot of people are like, oh, well, that's a career choice. No, man, like they're trying to do good. Like I've had friends where like they believe strongly that they want to make a difference. Yeah. They want to be the better people. Unfortunately, there's 90 or 80 or 100 people that are like, yo, if I get behind the badge, I have, ultimate power. I'm above the law, which is not the case. It's not the case. But seeing George Floyd's daughter say that on Steven Jackson's Instagram, like touched me, man. It was just, it was an incredible thing.
And it's so true. It's so true. Like this has been going on for years.
It has been going on for such a long time. But seeing where it has gotten as of late is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It sucks again, and it sucks, and I'll repeat that a million times. It's a terrible thing that it went the way that it did. You know. Mm-hmm. But he really did change the world where, dude, you got people on the other side of the fucking world protesting for you.
Oh yeah.
To make shit equal,
No, like I saw that even the Amish came out.
Yes. Yo, what the fuck?
Right?
They understand.
And the witches came out to protest, and Elmo came out to protest.
It's so it's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah.
Oh, something else I wanted to bring up was you talked about the white privilege, and some people just don't understand what that means. And what you gotta, I guess, tell them is, imagine if you were in George Floyd's position, being harassed by the cops for the same thing. Do you think that knee would have been on your neck? Probably not.
Probably not.
Absolutely not. And we just had someone in the chat say white people get beat up by bad cops as well. Yeah, they do. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no one is saying that.
That's the whole thing that I mean, everybody I think on this stream right now is understanding, like, this goes back to what that gentleman said, Dennis, right? Dennis said that, white people it happened to me. Dude, I feel that. I understand that, but I get that. But again, it's not saying that only Black Lives Matter. Like, it's more than that. It's
we're the house on fire right now. So we're the ones that need.
Exactly. And I love that you just used that. It's
your house is not on fire, so why are we going to go to your house and pour water on it and try to save your house? Your house is okay right now.
Black lives are the ones that are
right now.
The Black lives are the ones that are in danger right now, and it's for no fucking reason, for no goddamn reason besides the skin color,
Yeah.
it blows.
And it's been
really
happening
fucking blows.
since the beginning of time, like ever since there's been police forces. Like it's been like this forever. It's time to stop. That's what the point of this is. It's time to end this. We're not gonna forget about it in 2 weeks like we've done every single other time these marches have happened.
No. I don't know if you guys noticed, but COVID-19 does not exist anymore. That is
right?
not
People
the
are
whole
out
thing right
together.
that is nothing
Most
anymore.
of them not wearing masks. Like what?
Dude, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me. I've literally had to stop people from coming into the store where I work because people are like strolling in, like it's all good, no fucking mask, and I'm like, you gotta go back. I can't help you. And they're like, oh, what do you mean? They're like, no, it's asphyxiating. And I'm like, it's still a thing. It's like this is still a thing. This is real. And they're like, no, it's not. And I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Right?
Dude.
We're all screwed. Like Jader, be ready for a big hurricane this year in Florida, and Janine, be prepared for an earthquake because it's gonna happen in 2020. It just feels.
Did you see that lightning striking the Washington Monument? Like,
good God. Is there anything else we want to bring? I kind of want to address the Drew Brees situation that happened.
Let's do it.
He was kind of he was misunderstood, completely misunderstood about what Colin Kaepernick was doing in the first place, kneeling during the anthem. And I think there's a lot of people who still don't know this, because even people in my family still didn't know that Kaepernick was sitting during the anthem at first, and a veteran called him and said, "Hey man, I know what you're trying to do is right, but it's a little disrespectful to sit. What we do when we lose our comrades is we kneel for them. So it'd be much better if you knelt during the anthem. You could still get your point across." And he listened and he did that. And to think that people still think that he's protesting a flag and the military is you're just way off base. And that's what really upset a lot of people that Drew Brees said that this week. It's kind of frustrating. I mean, he has come around. He issued 3 apologies now at this point, which I think is hilarious. He just sent a message to Donald Trump directly, which is very powerful. But Janine, I want to get your opinions on this. Like, when you saw what Drew Brees did and now where he's at right now, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's just that whole kind of thing of people just not getting it. I saw one of his, I'm not huge on sports, but I know I saw a video from one of his teammates, his black teammates, who did this he had tears in his eyes, and he was like, you're supposed to be my brother, and for you to kind of say these things and think these things, it's crazy. Like, this is not okay with me. This is not okay with me. And this isn't the end of this. So like, I feel like hopefully they maybe reached out to him and tried to make him understand or get him to kind of just see the other side of things. But when I saw the video from his teammate kind of saying how disappointed he was that, he saw them as brothers on the field and everything else. And for him to kind of have these so inaccurate kind of crazy views, and how hurtful that was to him, I hope he was able to kind of be receptive to that, and that his apology maybe came from a genuine place, and him at, a certain point in there, educate himself to really know, the other side of things, and know what other people go through. So that kind of got to me when I saw his teammate really put out that video and really emotional, kind of tell him how hurt he was by the things he said.
2 things stuck out to me when Drew Brees said this. It was, 1, you are grossly misinformed by what is happening with Colin Kaepernick, what his whole purpose was when he was doing this. And 2, man, bad timing. Read the room. What's going on right now, man? Like, what are you doing? Yeah. Jader, did you have any thoughts on Drew Brees?
I was pissed off with him, not gonna lie, until I started reading more about it. But honestly, it's a very sensitive time right now in the States, and I hate, again, it's kind of not going back to the whole Drew Brees thing, but I just feel like everything is so divided. What I will mention, like drifting off of the whole Drew Brees situation, is the Schmodown family. Like, a lot of people, I don't know if a lot of people know that Janine is part of the Schmodown. She's the reason I got my W. And I will forever treasure you for that, whether I'm on your team or not. Like, it's just, thank you for accepting me for who I am. You were just there for me, and I was a fucking nervous wreck. I really was. But the Schmodown community right now, it's gotten ugly, you know,
Mhm.
and it sucks because the one thing that unified all of us was the fact that we watch movies and love trivia. You know, there's that was it. We didn't see color, race, politics, anything. We didn't
Yeah.
see any of that shit, and it's gotten very, very political
Yeah.
as of late. And again, I'm not shitting on anybody that has stated their opinion, because that's the beautiful thing about living in the States or in the country that you know that we live in.
Mhm.
We are free to say whatever we want, but I'm not you know, I'm not inclined. I'm not supposed to. Not
It's your
supposed
right
to.
to not like it or not
Thank
agree
you.
with it. You know,
Thank you.
you're
And
allowed to
but
feel how you
I
feel
feel like
about it.
people get I feel like people lose focus on that when you don't agree with them. You're automatically xed out, and you're automatically a piece of shit, and you're automatically you're not worth my fucking time.
Yeah.
You know, and it really sucks because Kyle, you've known for a long time, and we've been fans of this for such a long time. Where uh, being part of this was really a dream come true, you know. And Kyle and I, when everything was going down in Orlando, was like, whether you get it or I get it, like we have our backs
Yeah.
100%. You know, it could have been Kyle just as well as it could have been me, you know.
Yeah.
And it sucks because I've seen how literally how divided everything's been,
Yeah.
you know, as of late. And I've literally stayed quiet. I've reached out to the parties where, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I reached out to Robert Meyer Burnett, and I've reached out to certain individuals where I've stated where I felt in the whole thing, but I've never made it anything public. I've been a very private person overall, you know,
And
and
you
I
don't
think
have to. That's the thing. You don't have to if you don't want to. That
no,
it's not.
and I agree, and
It's not
I 100% agree with you, Kyle. It just sucks that we've got into everything's been politics, you know, and I feel like
Yeah.
part of it has been because we haven't been able to put episodes out, or we haven't been able to record or anything like that. So
So yeah,
this
so
is
it's kind of
this
these
is
are the
the
things that
thing
we
right
focus
now.
on. Yeah.
But it literally it sucks. It sucks because this is not what the Schmodown's about, you know.
Yeah.
And I wanted to drift off. We even pre-show mentioned that we didn't know if we were going to mention it or not. But I feel like it's a very important. No, it is what it is. I feel
No,
like
I think
it
it's
is.
funny.
No, but it's an important thing to mention in my
Yeah.
in my
Of
opinion.
course, yeah,
It's
yeah.
very important.
We got two Schmodown personalities here, of course.
Yeah, but oh my god, I forget that I'm that.
You are.
I forget that I'm that. But it just sucks, you know. Like I want to go back, and it sounds so cliche and what have you, where I want to go back to it, you know, back in the day, you know, was in my opinion February, where February was everything was back to normal. You know,
Yeah.
since March everything's been like going to shit.
Crazy. Yeah.
You know, but I just feel like everything's just been so divided, where people wanted, you know, Robert Meyer Burnett's head, and people want RB3's head, and I still feel like that we're not
That
about
helps
that.
anything.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Like
And we're not about that. That's not, we're here for the same reason that everybody else is here. If
Yeah.
you know about the Schmodown, it's because you love movies, you love trivia, you love the characters, you love wrestling, what have you.
Yeah.
And let's get the fucking politics out of there. Let's
Yeah.
get them out, you know? Like, you know, again, I don't want to dwell on the subject too much, but Robert Meyer Burnett said some fucked up shit, and I told him that. I really told him
Yeah.
that what he said sucked. But I know him personally, not know him personally. Let me rephrase that. I met him once at Spectacular as a fan. And I even told you, Janine, that I was sitting right behind you, and I didn't say a word to you that I was the winner.
Yeah.
You know, little did I know that we were going to be in the same team.
Yeah.
I was sitting right behind you, Miss Movies. I was sitting
And
right behind
Kevin,
Kevin Smith, Hannah, everyone. I was gigging the fuck out while you were literally a row in front of me. I'm a Spectacular answering the questions that were being asked, as all of us were that night. Like, oh, I know this, and we were like,
Yeah.
just, you know,
Yeah.
same thing. But I met Robert Meyer Burnett that night as a fan, and he was just he was a genuinely nice guy. Now, I don't know him personally. When I got picked up, he reached out briefly. Good to have you in the team. How are you? Let's get ready to do this, as most managers will.
Yeah.
But I also follow him on social media, and he's just never been that person. I've never gotten that vibe from him ever. Now, and one thing that I did tell him, and again, what I wrote to him is between me and him, and it'll stay that way.
Mhm.
But one thing that I will admit that I said to him is, like, everyone had said something fucked up while they're angry, and that's one thing that I did relate to him. But I quickly told him, hey, what you said was fucked up, and I appreciate the apology, but you just went about it the wrong way.
Mhm.
It sucks that you said that. It is what it is. I had my piece with him. I already told him how I felt. I was kind of looking forward to working with him because he was such a big personality
Yeah.
for the slowdown. But I feel like this whole left and right side issue with it, when it shouldn't be.
And I mean, I appreciate that it's like bred kind of discussion, but it's gotten kind of volatile, which doesn't really solve anything. Like, I was really happy and really respected that him and Christian talked about it right away. He didn't just kind of make a snap decision, and that they actually talked about it in a, amicable, peaceful way. And if it is going to be a topic that is discussed within our community, I wish it could be just that, like a great kind of learning from the situation, discussion. We may not agree, but we can hear each other out and try to understand each other's perspectives. But it's kind of thrown insults and really kind of volatile, disgusting things have been said about people in the situation. So that's
when
been the most
it shouldn't have gotten to that level.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to say. It should have never gotten to that level at all. And that's what pisses me off the most, to be completely honest with you. That it's like, that's not us. That's not our MO. You know?
Even if we don't agree with each other, like, I would hope that we could at least just talk and try to hear each other out and just agree to disagree in a respectful way, because that is what I know from this community. But just the fact that it's just gotten so kind of, terrible like this, it's been rough to see that happen to a community that I love so much, that I've been a part of for almost 3 years now. Like, it's difficult.
No,
on top of everything else.
What's up? You haven't gotten any backlash or anything of the matter? I don't know if people have been. If you want to talk about it, of course.
I personally haven't dealt with anybody kind of coming at me crazy, or
good,
I've gotten pretty much nothing but positive stuff from people. People wanting to advocate for my work and what my media stuff and my art and just me as a competitor, and people wanting me to come give my perspective on things. So I've appreciated that. I haven't seen any kind of vindictive, stuff directed at me. So that's been good.
Okay.
I just want to say, and Jader, if you want to send our next guest the message to tell him to call in, we'll transition to our next thing. But yeah, I'm glad that we did address this, because it's good that we don't ignore it, because it is happening, and to ignore it would be like it didn't even happen. I just want to say to the fans, like, be respectful out there. You can voice your opinion. You can be either happy or upset about what happened, but just be respectful. Like, I'm seeing like Clark Wolf and Emma Five get called out, and it's interesting that those are the people you guys decide to call out. It's not the time. So please, everyone, be respectful. And to wrap all of this up in a way, it's been a very important week in history right now, whether it's in the Schmoedown and football and in the country with protesting. It's been a very important week that we're going to look back in our history books and study. And move forward from in a positive way to where we learn something. And it's, you know, we're not wrapping up this discussion because we're getting
I feel like 2020 it's gonna be a whole year in high school. Like
Right?
junior year or
What?
sophomore year, you're gonna learn about everything that happened in 2020.
Yeah.
It's
Listen,
been
man, I
so
was still
crazy.
recovering from Kobe when the coronavirus hit. Like, come on.
Dude, we've had a threat from like World War III. We have Kobe obviously dying. We had COVID. We had murder hornets. Australia's fire, exactly. We've had, and then now this bullshit. That's everything.
Ebola is coming back. Yeah.
Dude, we're gonna get aliens or like Planet of the Apes shit coming soon.
But we got astronauts up in space, so I guess that makes up.
I mean, they escaped great. Like they honestly, I salute them 100%.
Elon Musk can't get a car to work, but he can get someone in space. So, anyways, but this conversation is not going to end because what we're doing right now is we're going to transition to our film of the week, like I said earlier, and Do the Right Thing, which is very relevant to what is happening right now. Absolutely relevant. And for those who don't know, have never seen the film, it takes place on a Brooklyn street during the hottest day of the year, where a pizza shop in that street of Brooklyn runs into tensions with the community, and tensions rise around everyone else, to put it very vaguely, to where everything kind of just outbursts. And I remember seeing this for the first time and just kind of enjoying it on the surface, but understanding it's something powerful to say. And then when you rewatch it, you pick up on so many little details.
Yes.
Spike Lee's a genius.
Absolutely.
He has his hands all over this thing. This is his masterpiece, I think, so far. We're gonna get to that later about Apex Mountain and all that. But it's so significant as to what's going on right now, this film, because you see the tensions going on between all races. You have the black community that lives on the street. You have the white Italian family that owns the pizza shop. You have the Koreans across the street. And the cops coming by all the time, and you see so many different races coming together. And then when the heat hits, I mean, Jader, we know in Florida, when the heat hits, it hits. Yeah, it's tough. So, Janine, like, what's your feelings about this film? What's your perspective on it? Like, when you watch Do the Right Thing, what are you looking out for, and what do you appreciate about it?
Time out. Walk me through. I want to hear the first time you saw this film. Maybe you saw it at a young age, you didn't understand it, or you saw it at the right age where you understood it. And just walk me through that. The first time you saw the film to where you feel, how many times have you seen it, the whole night?
I saw it when I was a teenager. So, and I remember just being really angry, which even watching it today, when I watched it, it's hard to kind of not feel that way when you see certain things. It took me a while to kind of understand what was happening, because I think maybe I was 14, 15, maybe when I saw it. And since I had never really directly experienced any kind of discrimination, it made me kind of notice things that were happening around me a little bit more, because I grew up in a predominantly white area. And I would have people kind of ask me questions about why I looked the way I look, why I had a big nose and big lips and a big forehead. Wow. Things like that. And people making comments about, that if they tan, they can look like me and stuff, like weird things like that. And I never really clicked until, seeing this movie and seeing kind of how other races kind of view each other. And that kind of put those things in perspective for me. But just so many smart choices, so many interesting things to kind of pick up on as you do rewatches over the years. And that's one of my favorite things about movies, is the rewatchability. Absolutely. Is being able to learn something new or see something that you didn't notice the first time every time you watch it. And this is definitely one of those movies.
And Jader, like, what's your perspective on it? When you mentioned the rewatchability also, that you pick up on more things the second time. What did you see?
So for me, and I said this pre-show, I had never seen this movie until this year. And it was only because while I was studying for the Schmodown, Spike Lee, even though I've seen a lot of his films, I had never seen this film, and I got a question asked during practice about this film, and I shrugged my shoulders. I'm like, I've never seen it, and I got that, I got that gasp, like what? And I was like, I'm sorry, I never saw it. Literally, we hung up, from studying, and it was like 2 days later where I ended up seeing the film. Um, I'm not gonna lie to you. The first time I saw this movie, thought it was fucked up, but it didn't hit me as hard as I hit me yesterday because I saw it last night again. And it's not a knock towards being ignorant to what's been going on, but it just obviously hit differently with the times that we're living now.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And what I mean with picking up, like the first time I saw it, I don't know if I was just like, texting and I was like looking and I was like, all right, okay. It was one of those things where I picked up on little subtleties with the hottest day of the year. Like I feel like that was kind of like a metaphor to the things to come, between the things heating up between every character. I didn't pick that up the first time. It's just little things here and there that were just subtle little throws, and that's what makes Spike Lee a genius in my eyes, is that he literally wanted to give, and he gave you every little dose at the time it was very appropriate until the ship blows up. The whole time that I was watching it the first time, believe it or not, it was reminding me of Friday, and Friday being a comedy where everything takes place the same day, same hood, same street or whatever. Like that, it was Friday to me, and I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know honestly what I was getting into watching this film. I thought that this was a comedy or a melodrama where it was like, oh, we're gonna have our serious things, but overall we're not gonna get too into it. Until the end. And the end, I'm not gonna lie, like I was texting, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh shit, I gotta pay attention.
What happened? Yeah.
Spike Lee is honestly how it happens.
And here's the thing:
yesterday,
something to say. Spike Lee always has something to say in all of his films. He usually tags it at the end. Like if you look at Black Klansman, when he was showing the Charlottesville incident just the year before when that happened. And at the end of this film, you have two quotes: one from Martin Luther King and one from Malcolm X. Basically, two men who were fighting for the same thing, but had different routes of how they wanted to do it. And what I love about this film is
check this out. I literally took a picture of it.
Yeah.
I literally took a picture of it because I was like, this is insane. I didn't catch that the first time. Where this is one of the things that I caught, where I was watching the film and I'm like, Jesus Christ, he literally quoted Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. I'm like, and two like super, super important people. On everything, and the revolution and everything, that had two different ways of going about
it. I mean, that's why they even based like Professor X and Magneto and their dynamic on them. So that's just kind of how prevalent it was, that they were both fighting for the same thing, but just in very different ways. And I like kind of just the cue of Smiley, like having that picture the whole day, trying to give it to people, and people just kind of blowing him off. And then him putting it on the wall, and just like, even just that picture, it's such a great picture of them, like actually like smiling and finding a positive moment to kind of, and just showing how people who have different views can kind of understand each other, even if it's just in that one moment. Definitely something I didn't really think about before watching it today.
And I love about how this film has, it shows every perspective in a way where we all are at fault in different circumstances. Like one of the more powerful scenes is where the camera zooms in on Mookie, and then on Pino, and then on the cop, and then on the Koreans, and they're just blasting everybody else. And it's one of those things where we all hold some bit of hatred in us. And Spike Lee pulls that out. But some of it is a lot more, I'd say, profound than others. what the situation that kicks off this entire film is Bugging Out, played by Giancarlo Esposito, who is very unrecognizable in this film, but
Yes.
wonderful.
But so great. But so
Yeah.
great.
Goes into the pizza shop and is basically asking how come there's no black people on this wall that Sal's Pizza Shop has. And he's asking, your business is run by black people. Why don't you have any black people on here? And then Sal on the other side is saying, this is my business. I can do whatever I want. If you don't like it, you can leave. And I kind of want to get you guys in on this. Like, what's your perspective on this situation? Because Spike Lee has pointed out that both sides do have a point, but who is right?
So this is the thing. So for me, I'm sorry to jump in this, but for me, I was watching the film, and I honestly felt that way the first time. Well, I felt differently the first time versus the second time, and I don't know if it just my mind playing tricks on me where I knew where the film was going versus the first time. Where the first time I saw the film, I was like, you know what? It is Sal's joint. Like Sal can do whatever he wants. If I was a property owner and I'm like, hey, you know what? I put whatever the hell I want because this is my business at the end of everything. However, the one thing that always comes back to me, and it trickled down the first time versus the yesterday when I saw it, was when Giancarlo Esposito, what's his name?
Bugging Out.
Bugging Out is looking around, and he's like, "Yo, where are your Italian brothers now? Like, I see brothers.
Everyone in here is black.
Everybody in here, are African American, and we're the one giving you your business." Where I'm like, "Fuck yeah."
Yeah, the exact same thing with me today. Like, I remember watching it and thinking, yeah, I mean, it's his shop. He can do whatever he wants. At the end, he talks about, like, he built it. He put the tile in. Like, that's his store. That's his shop.
But one of my favorite scenes, by the way.
That point is so true. Like, all your clientele, the people who are making your business a success are all black people. Yeah. So don't you think they should be represented in some way? Because that's how, you're building your business off of them. So yeah, it's definitely a strong point that like swayed me to that side, to Bugging Out side, that I didn't really think about, on other watches.
He has a point, and then he goes throughout the day trying to get people to join in his boycott, and no one's willing to do it until Radio Raheem. And it's so interesting. Everyone's just like, come on, man, you're being crazy. You're gonna boycott.
Not that big a deal.
Like, come on, man. I want to get to Oscars. Which is interesting because Jader just last week we talked about Field of Dreams, which is the same exact year Do the Right Thing would have been nominated. So we know the nominees. It's Born on the 4th of July, Dead Poet Society, Field of Dreams, My Left Foot, and famously Driving Miss Daisy won. And I learned a fact that obviously I didn't win. I didn't watch these Oscars because I wasn't alive yet.
But I was alive.
Yeah, Kim Basinger, who was presenting the award, famously went up there and said, these are all 5 great movies, but there's one that's the best, and it's not a part of these nominees. And she was talking about Do the Right Thing, and she shouted out Spike Lee there, which I think is very powerful for the time right there. And Driving Miss Daisy does not hold up.
No, not at all. Not at all. And you know what? We talked about this last week. I had just seen Do the Right Thing a couple months ago, but rewatching it last night, I would have taken out Driving Miss Daisy and Field of Dreams to put this film in there because
absolutely,
this is worthy.
This film's held up way better than all 5 of those films. It's way more relevant today. And then Spike Lee, the film only got 2 Oscar nominations, which is kind of a travesty. Where Danny Aiello got nominated for Best Supporting Actor, and Spike Lee got nominated for Best Original Screenplay. A screenplay he wrote in 2 weeks, by the way. Another fun fact that I found out researching this, which is crazy. But when Black Klansman got nominated, he became the first African American to be nominated for both adapted screenplay and original screenplay, which is a great fact to know for you Schmodown guys. I mean, he's probably the first guy you would think of, but it's something to keep in the back of your mind. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about before we get to the categories?
Like I said, like this, it's an all-star. It's honestly, I enjoyed it so much more last night than I did the original time that I saw it. And I'm not, and that's not knocking the film by any means. By any means, I
Just
enjoyed
kind
it
of
the first
comparing it to
time.
what's going on right now.
But it's exactly,
It
it's
holds
just,
no weight.
and you know, when you love a film overall, it's because you relate to it in one way or another. You know, you feel, like I said, like The Dark Knight has been my favorite film, and I've said this a million times, and it wasn't anything crazy about the film. It was just the way that I felt when I originally saw it, where my mind was literally blown in that movie theater, where it kept me on my toes. I didn't ever expect a movie to be that way in you know, in screen. Watching this movie last night was like, holy shit! It was like a little light bulb just turning on, where I'm like, I can't believe that after, you know, 30 plus years, or 30 years actually, he's 31 years old. This film, not knowing obviously, because Spike Lee is not a fortune teller or anything like that, how relevant this movie is
Well, it
till
shows because
today.
this has been happening for so many years, like we were talking about earlier.
And again, it goes back to
sad
saying
too,
how much
but-
this fucking sucks.
Yes.
How no change has been made. No
Exactly.
change has been made, you know?
30 years ago, these were the problems, these were the issues, and we're still dealing with it today. It just makes you a little bit sad that like this movie is still so relevant, because literally something like this just happened, and it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I teased Jader a little earlier today about casting what ifs. I found a lot for this film, and I think you guys are going to be fascinated to hear this. Spike Lee originally campaigned for Robert De Niro to play the role of Sal. De Niro turned it down because he played that same. He said he played that similar role a bunch of times before and didn't want to be put in the same position again. I think that's very fascinating to think about what De Niro would have looked like in Sal's position. What else we got here? Lawrence
A little
Fishburne.
bit, I feel like a little bit more threatening, because as much, I really did love Sal's character, and that's the incredible thing I feel like about this film, because at the end, it's not that he's really portrayed as a villain, but he stood his ground, you know, and it kind of goes back to what we're kind of going through now, where some police are standing their ground versus what's going on, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like De Niro would have been a little bit more menacing, you know, where maybe Mookie wouldn't have thrown that garbage can had it been De Niro, you know? And maybe, I don't know, like, this is just where I go with casting, you get me? Mm-hmm. So I feel like Danny Aiello, like he was incredible in the film, and he overall, and this is what's just incredibly like truthful about the film, is that he's not a hated character. If anything, you're hating John Turturro's character. You know, you're hating him the whole time because he's a fucking prick.
And you see him even trying to teach his sons, like, you know, to
like, no, don't fuck up. When his son is telling him, we need to get out of Bed-Stuy, and then the whole Smiley trying to sell him
coming in, and then he tries to go out and give Smiley money.
Shit broke. That shit breaks your heart. And his dad, the whole time, Sal's like, no, like, this is not how we do things. I saw this kids grow up. He even opened the shop after they were closed to open the door for the kids that he's like, they love my pizza. 4 more slices and we're out of here. Obviously not knowing what the hell was going to happen 5 minutes later. You know? So Sal, for me, he's just an incredible character. You mentioned him being nominated for an Oscar. Obviously didn't win, but he was, you know, I don't want to get ahead of it, but he was one of my favorite characters in this film, because he was literally the balance between everything, and then everything goes down. It goes just right at the end. You know?
even after everything, him and Mookie still have kind of a positive exchange, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I really paid attention to that until like watching it today. I don't think I really remembered that him, you know, after everything, him and Mookie still kind of had a positive kind of back and forth after everything.
Yeah, he cares about the community, and he just got confronted. He hates being confronted, and he hates being told no, and that's what set him off at the end when he takes the bat out on Rady Rahim. Which, something else I think we should definitely bring up before I get to more casting what ifs is public enemies fight the power. which you hear 24 times in this film.
Yes.
I think this is one of the best uses of a song in any film ever.
Ever, dude.
Yes, because you completely associate it with "Do the Right Thing" every time you hear it, and it's such a powerful song.
Well, time out. I'm sorry to say it. I don't until now, right? So I'm a big hip hop advocate, love Public Enemy the whole night. I've heard Fight the Power a million times before I knew it was part of this film.
Yeah.
And now, like, mind you, last night decided to see the music video, and it's all Do the Right Thing. Like, I think even Spike Lee was involved in the directing the video for the song, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. I'm not 100% on that, so don't quote me on that. However, for me, I've heard the song a million times over, like I said. Excuse me, and no idea.
Yeah. Also, very proud.
Saw the opening with in February. Rosie Perez breaking it the fuck down.
This is her
breaking it down.
Smoothie.
Yo, smooth. Breaking it down, doing her thing, and now I hear that song, and it's automatically gonna bring me back to this film. Before it was like, oh, just a classic hip hop song that stood the test of time, is about equality, the whole nine. Like, I love that song. Yeah. Mind you, I'm a big Elvis fan, right? So the first time I heard the song where they shit on Elvis, I'm like, but overall, like, Chuck D, fucking Flavor Flav, I love Public Enemy. So this song, every time it will get played now, like, it's automatically gonna go to Do the Right Thing. Automatically. Well, and some films just do that. Some films do that. It's crazy.
I'm super proud that I actually got to do a Radio Raheem entrance to this song before all the copyright music stopped. So I'm happy I got it in there.
So good, bro.
All of that. Yes. It was
I love that.
Some more casting what ifs. Lawrence Fishburne turned down the role of Radio Raheem. So I was listening to another podcast where Tarantino was talking about The King of New York, and he was talking about Lawrence Fishburne. And Fishburne famously had hired a group to promote him as a leading man at the time. He wanted to be known as someone who's at the forefront of a lot of these films.
He wanted to be
these guys to push.
He wanted to be Mookie.
And so, well, Fishburne turned down roles like Jules in Pulp Fiction because he wanted to be a leading man, and he lost out on this because I think Fishburne would have been a great Radio Raheem. You could feel that powerful voice, even though it works out in this. I think Fishburne would have been really fascinating. I don't know what the role is, but Wesley Snipes also turned down a role in this film because he was filming Major League. So he couldn't do it, even though they worked together later. Wesley Snipes did turn down a role. Spike Lee wanted Matt Dillon for Pinot before he settled on John Turturro. I think Turturro is definitely better.
Matt Dillon?
Huh?
Yeah.
Matt Dillon?
Matt Dillon. Yeah, he could have worked, but I think Turturro is very he's remembered in this film.
And I think he would have just played it like straight kind of evil.
No, I'm not gonna lie. While I was watching the movie the first time, and I was seeing names pop up, John Turturro. As soon as his name, I'm like, fuck yeah, down. And then I hated his character, and I'm like, that's just how incredible he is. I hated his character. I was like, you're a piece of shit.
And I feel like Dylan would have been like surface level evil, and there wouldn't have been any depth or like.
Yeah, no way. No. This worked out. This worked out the way that it did.
Kind of did that in Crash, and it was just like, obviously, Crash is like.
We're gonna have a Crash discussion once upon a time, because honestly, I don't hate that film as much as everybody else does.
I mean, I own it. I there were some things, but it was a little bit like pandering a little bit. But yeah, I feel like Matt Dillon would have been doing the thing that he did in Crash in this movie, just very kind of surface level. I'm a bad guy, like no kind of depth or interest or John Turturro's kind of flair
Yeah.
for talking and his style of kind of delivering lines. I don't think that would have been there. So I'm happy with the
I got two more for you guys. Sal, the role of Sal is also considered for Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci was looked at for the role of Sal. I think Joe Pesci would have been way over the top and not worked.
Yeah, no way. De Niro would have been better.
Yeah.
De Niro, but I still gave it to Danny Ayo.
Final one. James Earl Jones was offered the role of Demare, but turned it down for being the film Best of the Best. So I think James Earl Jones would have been a fun casting for this, but
time out. Have you guys seen Best of the Best?
I have not.
No.
I love that movie.
Was it worth it?
1 and 2. I love those films. But that's all my mama. My mama brought me up on Best of the Best films. But a lot of people haven't seen them. Eric Roberts is in them, by the way. Chris Penn. Yeah. Those are old school fucking movies, man. But yeah. I'm getting like deep in there.
What I noticed from a lot of these casting what ifs is like a lot of people turned down this film, and for one reason or another, things just worked out for Spike Lee, and he got the right people in every single part. It seemed to work out. And even Smiley that you bring up, I guess Smiley was the guy who plays Smiley was just someone who kept showing up to set every day asking for a part, for a role, and wrote this character, and Spike Lee put him in, and it ended up being a very significant character in this film by the end who has a powerful moment. So things just worked out for Spike Lee. Let's get to the categories now. Best scene. You got some nominees here. You have Bugging Out versus Sal when they're talking about what's on the wall. You have obviously the ending where Mookie and Sal have their confrontation at the end. You have Mookie throwing the trash can through the pizza shop, and they're having their whole everything breaks loose. And Rady Raheem, everything happens with him. And then you also have what to me is my pick is Turturro and Mookie having their back and forth, and Mookie saying, who's your favorite athlete? Magic Johnson. Who's your favorite musician? Prince. And it's like he's figuring out that
going after him.
There's different levels of black people, and it's like, no, there's not. So what do you guys pick for best scene in this film?
For me, I think it's probably the Sal and Mookie scene at the end, just because it's not something I remembered. Like I didn't remember them kind of coming together. Like, they had their kind of back and forth, and I love him kind of shouting about how, he built this from the ground up. This is his shop, he's so proud of it, like what he's been able to do and build off his back. And then it's just all gone. And Mookie just being kind of outraged that he just really doesn't even care. Like he doesn't even want to hear any of that. Like somebody died, and that's the more important thing. And then him throwing the money at him. And I just didn't remember them. He's like, oh yeah, them talking about the weather, like it's fine. Like,
but I feel like the throwing money was kind of like demoralizing him, you know? Like you need this shit more than I do. Like, so. And
then him talking about wanting the money the whole time, like the whole movie, he's like, I'm trying to get my money. But he's like, I didn't earn this money. No, you owe me only this much. Take the rest of this back. And having a little bit of kind of, integrity there in that kind of exchange. And then them just kind of talking about the weather, like they can maybe come back from this. They can maybe come together from this. And then ultimately, like after everything that kind of happens, maybe your feelings about Sal can change and you can maybe see him as a little bit of the bad guy because it's kind of his fault or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I think with that exchange, you kind of go back to your original thinking on Sal, where you see that he's genuinely not the bad guy of this movie.
All right.
So I think the performance is there and everything kind of with that exchange and where it kind of escalates and then it kind of comes back down. It's kind of a hopeful vibe there that kind of ends with. So I liked that.
So time out. My whole thing, and I like not causing controversy or whatever, but question number one is, did Mookie do the right thing?
Well, we'll get to that then. Let's save that for the end discussion.
That's fine.
So Jader, what's your pick for best scene?
There's so many, dude. So one of my favorite scenes in the film is honestly that where it's the scene that sticks to me the most. So for me, when Giancarlo Esposito is like why don't you have any brothers up? You know, where's Malcolm? Where's Martin? And he's like, yo, you don't pay my bills. And I again mentioned this earlier. So he's like, they don't pay my bill. This is my shop. I do what I want. This and that. And that. And he looks around. And he's like, well, we're the ones supporting you. You know,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that because at first, like, I don't know, it was intentional or and I don't think it's intentional since Spike Lee's the director, but fuck, what's his name?
Bugging out.
Bugging out. God damn it! I wasn't saying you were going fuck. Sorry. So bugging out is there, and he's bugging the fuck out. He's doing his thing, and you're kind of like on South Side where he's being like kind of like hospitable. He's like, bro, get what you want, extra cheese. I'm a business owner. It is what it is. But it quickly, literally, like the first time I saw the movie, I'm like, oh, well, bugging out isn't wrong. Like, it's not his shit. You shouldn't worry about it. I understand it sucks, but it is what it is. Second time, meaning yesterday when I saw the movie, I was all about unbugging outside, where I was like, fuck, like, it's true. Where are your Italian brothers? Where are they?
Yeah.
You're literally in Bed-Stuy. You are in a black community telling yourself or telling everyone else that you've seen these kids grow up. They are the reason why you have a business. You are a reason why they are the reason why you have a business. Why don't you put it up? Like, what's the fucking deal with that? So that for me is probably my favorite scene in the movie. And believe it or not, it's a small scene, but when the mayor saves that kid, and you see the mom come out there trying to be all tack, and she spanks her kid or whatnot, and the mayor tells him like, hey, like don't go there. She goes, don't tell me how to raise my kid, this and that and that. I just felt that more like on a home thing because my mom used to be the same way where she was like, my mom was always like, don't tell me how to raise my kid. My mom raised me a certain way where it was a very strict way, but the fact that, he was a neighborhood drunk and he was able to save that kid, like without hesitation, that man just jumped in front of the car. And he said it himself. I saved him and I saved my own life because it is what it is. I loved that scene. I love that scene. And that's the daddy side of me. That's the parent side of me. Because I would be super appreciative of anybody doing that for my son. Like jumping in front of a car for a stranger, for a young kid. It's a beautiful scene. So that's another scene that really hit me.
Definitely. And that also kind of gave me a little bit more perspective too, as well. Like, raising a black son, and kind of that just kind of put in my head, like, now what black mothers or white mothers with like mixed kids that look black or whatever are going to have to teach their children. Like, they're going to have to teach them specific things that they're not going to have to, that white mothers aren't going to have to teach their kids, So that kind of put in my head, like, her whole thought of how important that is, that she needs to teach, raise her son her way, and nobody can really tell her because there are specific things that she's going to have to teach him. So that kind of thought was in my head in that scene that wasn't ever really there before.
I also want to shout out the fire hydrant scene where where the white man goes driving through with his car. That's
Italian man. He died in Goodfellas. That was the guy that they butchered in Goodfellas.
Oh,
in the very beginning of the scene. I hate that I don't know his name, but that's him. That's the guy that he fucking killed.
You also have our next category is the Michael Keaton Award for overacting for his role in Batman, saying, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts." I think there's only one answer for this question. It's Martin Lawrence, right? What's he doing in this movie?
I always forget he's in this movie.
Every time I forget, and then I see him, I'm like, oh yeah, he's in this shit.
And he's got the lisp and everything. It's just like, man, I think he wins that award for overacting.
Yes.
We have best line. Is there a line that sticks out to you guys? I found one that was funny, which is when the three men are sitting at the side, which I guess all those scenes are improvised. And one of them says, "If Mike Tyson ever dreams about beating my ass, he better wake up and apologize." I thought that was a great line because I guess Tarantino used that line in Reservoir Dogs in a way.
They were so great, though. The
Yes.
three of them, they were so great. Every time they were on this, they're like on the screen, I had a smile from ear to ear because I'm like, dude, that is amazing. You know, and again, it goes back. Kyle, I don't know if you can relate. I really don't, but it goes back when I grew up, and I like, you know, I live now in the suburbs, but before, it's not that I lived in the hood, but I lived in. I didn't live in the suburbs before, and I've had that. I've had the three old men talking their shit in front of the porch. You know, us riding our bicycles and playing stickball. Like, so there's a lot of this film where I'm like, fuck, like I'm not, I'm not black or anything, but I'm Latino, so I get it. I understand. I've been through that. Mind you, I left, that area when I was 5 years old, but I still very vividly remember me growing up in such areas, So seeing them was kind of like a highlight because I remember my grandfather and his friend and his other friend and his other neighbor talking shit. Like, like it's literally what it is. It's just them talking a lot of shit. And it was just it was so great. Like, and again, this film really reminded me of Friday. For when the first time I saw it, it really reminded me of Friday, of a one day in the hood. It is what it is. Now, Friday had that climax with with Craig and Demo going at it. He proved himself. It is what it is. But this film took a very serious turn. A very important turn, obviously, because I felt like we all felt like the injustice that was shown in this film, and again, we go back to it being so relevant today. And that's why I feel like Do the Right Thing it's timeless. It really is timeless. And it sucks at the same time. It goes back to saying, as beautiful as the whole George Floyd thing happened, where it's beautiful, everything, we have France protesters and protesters all around the world. But it's a shitty situation, but a beautiful thing. It goes back to this, where this film came out in 1989, and we're still dealing with the bullshit now.
So, do you guys have any other lines that stick out to you? I think there's one that was really significant, but does anything else stick out to you guys?
I do like the line that you were talking about when he saves the kid and he says, I saved him, but I saved myself as well. I think that kind of just plays into him. Being seen a certain way as like the drunk of the street, and he's not really worth anything anymore. But he can still do something like that. And that's kind of something that saved him in that moment, and at least kind of gave him a more positive outlook on what he can do in the community. So I liked that. Also kind of thought it was funny with the three guys in the street. I can't remember exactly what he says, but when they're arguing and he kind of calls the one guy out, like, you're complaining about these Koreans building a business, but you're never going to do anything. You're not going to do that. You could just talk all you want, but you're never going to do anything. So just shut up. I'm going to go get a beer from these Koreans. I liked that whole kind of back and forth with him kind of calling him out. Because the whole thing is kind of the cliquey of the blacks and the Koreans and the cops and so I like seeing another black guy call out another black guy when he's kind of calling out Koreans when he's not gonna do anything. So what's wrong with them building something? Because you're not gonna build anything. So I liked him kind of calling him out.
Yeah. I think one of the more significant lines is actually the title of the movie, is when Spike Lee or Mookie is walking past the mayor, and the mayor's like, "Hey, got to tell you something." He goes, "What?" He goes, "Do the right thing." Spike's
roll credits.
He goes, "That's it. Yep. All right, got it." And moves on. And he's, that's just what the movie's always been. Yeah. Jader, you got a line that sticks out to you?
Honestly, to be honest with you. Yeah. And I always look for it, I don't know if you guys seen that episode of Family Guy where Peter Griffin is, he's in the movie theater and they mentioned when he's like, when they mentioned the title of the film, and they're like, but the whole time I'm like, what is this film about? The first time, and when the mayor tells him, he's like, "Hey, do the right thing." It honestly just sticks out. Yeah. It really does, because the whole time this film, as much as racial slurs were getting thrown out there, it didn't feel like a movie. And I mentioned this earlier. It doesn't feel like a Fruitvale Station, or it doesn't feel like a Just Mercy or a Hurricane film. It doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel like a totally racist film. You have your jabs, but that's as far as it goes until I want to say the last 20 to 30 minutes of the movie, where you're like, holy shit, this is a very woke. It's a very woke film, you know.
So
Go ahead.
yeah, no. Let's move on to the next category, the Mahershala Ali Award for Best Sharpshooter for his role as Juan in Moonlight. The guy who comes in, he does a couple scenes, he leaves a huge impact, and then he takes off, and you just feel it for the rest of the time. He puts up, like, if you want to relate it to basketball, he shows up, puts up 15 off the bench, and then gets out of there, and it helps him win the game. So who does this for you guys? Who's the one character that's in there for a couple scenes and then takes off, but you feel their impact every single time they're there?
For me, go ahead, Jenny.
No, go ahead.
First time. No. Go ahead. Ladies first.
Well, I mean, he's a huge part of the like I like Samuel Jackson as kind of the DJ. I feel like he kind of narrates things, and like when everyone's kind of freaking out, like he's just telling everybody to kind of calm down. He's waking us up to the movie. He's just kind of that neutral voice who's kind of narrating what's going on and how people are feeling. So I like Sam Jackson as kind of that. When he was there, I liked him kind of easing things and kind of telling you what's happening, and being a neutral voice. And I think you need that when kind of it's something that deals with tension, race, and like everybody kind of coming at each other. I like that he was kind of a neutral voice to kind of help you kind of breathe a little bit throughout the movie.
To me, like I have Sam Jackson saved for another award coming up, in my opinion. But for this one, I give it to Radio Raheem, actually, because Radio Raheem, he's not really a big part of this movie until what happens to him at the end.
Yeah, like I almost said him, but I felt like he's such an important part of the movie.
At the end, yeah. You could go a couple different ways with it. Jader, who did you have?
I had originally, because I knew this question was coming, because obviously it's part of our show. I had Sal originally as the MVP, but the second time around he got dethroned. And I want to give the award to the mayor, believe it or not. Like,
that's a good pick.
I loved his impact in this film, and it goes more to the whole relatable. And again, I don't want to relate myself to a drunk, even though, you know, I am drinking. But he's just a positive character in this film, and I feel that I relate to him, right? Because going back to what we were saying earlier, where I am for the cause, and I understand how oppressed African Americans have been, and I've been there, and I will, you know, I'm right there behind you, and I understand, but I also have friends that are cops, close friends of mine, you know, and I feel like no matter what, like even right before the fucking riots happened in this movie, he stood in front of Sal and Vito and Vito.
He got them to a safe area.
And he's like, stop, you know? And I love that yesterday watching that, where I related to him so much, where I was like, fuck yeah. Like, if I could do that, that's exactly what I would do. I would try to just knock some sense into people, where you're like, dude, you got to breathe. I understand you're mad. I don't disagree on why you're mad, but take a moment before you, like, you know, regret, or you have to deal with the repercussions.
Yeah,
you know.
I think you picked the right choice, Vader, because I'm kind of mad. Like that's the choice. I don't know why I didn't think of the mayor. Like he's absolutely the winner of this award. For me, the next one is the Bill Murray Award for Best Cameo for honoring his Zombieland cameo. Actually, I think you give this to Matt Damon as well, because he's a cameo in every single film. It feels like. This is where I give Samuel Jackson the award.
Yeah,
because he's not like a big part of the plot per se, but it's always fun when you go back to him. Like I love hearing this. He's the perfect person to be a radio host. I would want to. Like, he's my Alexa downstairs. I think Sam Jackson's just phenomenal whenever he pops up in anything. So he's my winner for this award.
Same thing. So this is the thing. I get my haircut every Friday, right? I trim the beard, whatever I got to do. And today, my barber, shout out to Ground Zero Barbershop, asked me like, "Yo, what's up? What's the show gonna be about tonight?" I didn't know how serious the subject matter was going to be. And I told Kyle before we even signed on, I'm kind of nervous about even voicing our opinions because everybody right now is just shitting on you, you know? Now, at the same time, I don't give a fuck because it is what it is. And I've never been one to quiet my opinion or what have you. I've always been very vocal about how I feel. Normally, I am neutral, and it's not because I don't want any controversy. It's just I like to see both sides of the opinion, hence why I picked the mayor for said character, said award. So today, it's funny, and this is a long story for nothing, by the way, but today my barber, he's like, "Oh, what's the show about?" I told him, I'm like, "Well, we're going to talk, the Black Lives Matter, everything that's happening, and we're going to review Do the Right Thing." And he goes, "Oh, is that the film with Samuel L. Jackson in it?" And I'm like, that's a very unfair question, but yeah. And he goes, "Why?" And he goes, "Well, he's in it, but for 10, 15 minutes total, So it's not really a Samuel L. Jackson." And he goes, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "No, I'm positive. He's not in the movie for more than 10, 15 minutes." But this is my character for said award, to be honest with you, because he was there. Honestly, I've never seen him act because he I don't want to say that he gets typecasted, but he does get typecasted for being that, badass motherfucker. Like that's how we know Samuel L. Jackson for. And in this movie, he wasn't that. He was just,
very
looking
chill,
around the neighborhood, seeing what was going on. He was slick with words, which I loved. And I don't know. This is my choice for the Bill Murray Award, man. Overall, like he was just very slick with it,
Yeah.
and I love him for it. So
I would also give Rosie Perez a nod there. I think this was her first movie, so I think like she kind of branded her trademark like complaining kind of style, but her complaining is not really annoying. It's very kind of
it's fantastic
on brand, and she kind of like sealed her brand with this movie, I think, and she was very funny.
It's lasted all the way till just recently with like Birds of Prey. She's still playing the same character.
Yeah,
so I think Rosie Perez is a great choice.
Yes, even just opening the movie with that dancing as well.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
No. Let me tell you. Time out. Before we get there. So I didn't realize how long that opening scene was until yesterday when I was watching the movie like late night, And I always gave that award to Spider-Man 2 because those credit scenes are like fucking long. And yesterday with the whole they literally played Fight the Power throughout. And the song ends, and I like paused, and I'm like, "How long was that?" It was like 4 minutes and like 45 seconds, and I'm like, "Jesus Christ, dude!"
But it's powerful.
Yeah, no, it is, and I love it. And she did a killer job doing that. Killer job, but fuck.
Because I've been watching so many classic films. I love watching classic films. Every film before 1970 has that long extended sequence where let's introduce every single actor that's in this film and the costume designer and the set visitor and the catering. It's like, all right, we can do this at the end. We can do this right now. Things that don't make sense to me. I'm really confused as to the layout of this street, because Mookie disappears for long periods of time, and the dimensions of the street look like it's just a couple houses, and he's not going very far each time. Like he's staying inside. So how is he gone for 90 minutes each time? And they're like, "Oh, okay, there's a pass. Just think like that. I'm confused on the dimensions of this neighborhood. So that doesn't make sense to me. We also have, all right, let's get to one of the big ones that we bring up every week. Jader, Apex Mountain. Apex Mountain. So this is like the height of this person's powers. They are at this moment. They have never been better in their entire career. So who in this movie, outside of this movie, who hits their Apex Mountain? Because I can throw out a couple names and we can talk about it.
This is more personal for me because I've only seen, I want to say, like 2 or 3 films where this guy's been on, and for me it was Danny Aiello. I haven't seen Moonstruck, and I know he's in it.
Yeah.
But for me, this is his Apex Mountain. He killed this role. Again, we sympathize with Sal throughout the film. Even at the end where he loses everything, I feel like you still sympathize with him, even though you feel angry on everything that happened. And he was such a likable character that turned. I don't even feel like he was the villain.
He's not.
But yeah, but at the same time, where because he goes racial, he fucking loses his fucking mind, and he says some fucked up shit. I don't know how much. Again, I'm cursing a lot tonight, so I don't know how much in trouble we're gonna get, but it's just how I feel. Where he was going after Radio Raheem, I was pissed off.
Yeah.
Where I was like, why are you saying the shit that you're saying? Because you're not this person. Mm-hmm. You obviously believe in the black community. You know what the black community has done for you. You have Mookie working for you, even though he was kind of like trash worker.
You're crushing on his sister.
You know, I forget, and I always forget her character's name, and I hate it. What's Spike Lee, Mookie's sister's name in the movie?
Jade. Yeah. So how can you forget that? It's like half your name.
I'm sorry. There's been a lot of these today. There's been a lot of these today.
It's your name without the
But yeah, like you feel that Spike Lee senses that there's an attraction, if you will, and whether you see it or not, it's never discussed in the film, which I love. I love that they leave that a mystery because you don't know, because he's a lot older than her, but I love that it's a mystery, but it shows you that even if you have the slightest benefit of the doubt, he's not a racist person. Like he's not. And for me, it goes back to him being that. For me, it sucks to say that I've never seen him in a lot. And again, his IMDb credit right now, let me search for it, is 104. He has 104 films or TV shows under his credit. And I'm scrolling and I don't see anything that I've ever. 2 Days in the Valley is one that I've seen. I don't remember him. City Hall, I've seen. Don't remember him. Leon the Professional, I've seen. Don't remember him. He. What else do you got?
We have to also look at the other people. I think Danny Aiello is definitely a choice for this. Yeah. He can absolutely get Danny Aiello. Like you said, Danny Aiello. I think he's definitely a choice, but this can go to multiple people. I mean, you can go through the list. Sam Jackson, no. John Turturro, no. Giancarlo Esposito, no. I think we can have a conversation about
Bill Nunn.
About who?
Bill Nunn, who Radio Raheem.
Yeah,
I don't think he's done much.
Have you seen Sister Act?
Yes. He was also in Spider-Man.
Yeah,
he was a Spider-Man.
I think we can have a conversation though about Spike Lee.
I don't want to have that conversation because I don't believe in it, Kyle. I don't believe in it, Kyle.
I think we can have a conversation about Spike Lee here. Is this his Apex Mountain? Because I thought about this a lot. This is the film that's talked about the most when you talk about Spike Lee. This is the one that comes up. People say this is his masterpiece, and I happen to agree with that. However, I think he has it in him to do a film better than this, which is very hard to do. But from what I see with him with Black Klansman, he's on the upward trajectory again. And
Thank you.
This film is on very relevant right now because next Friday on Netflix we're getting The Five Bloods coming out, and
which I'm so excited for.
And if he can make that film even better than Black Klansman, which got him in his first Oscar, that might be his Apex Mountain happening right now. So
my argument with you is that I like, and I'm sorry, but I like Black Klansman more than I do The Right Thing.
That's not outrageous though. Like I'm not mad at you for that.
I loved Black Klansman made me like Topher Grace, which I despise. All right? I despise him.
That's a weird can of worms I don't want to open right now.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'll fucking take all the worms, whatever. I don't like Topher Grace. Everybody shits on me and tells me, have you seen that 70s show? No, I've seen like maybe a season, and he annoys me in every fucking episode. He annoyed me in Spider-Man 3. He annoyed me in Take Me Home Tonight. I don't care for him. I just don't like him. However, Black Klansman, he was on another level in that film, and I just feel like Black Klansman, again, very important film. I feel like it was very ignored. Besides everybody that's in our world where we like to talk movies and we have these discussions, no one else has seen that movie. I'm sorry, but it's a very underrated film.
It's crazy to me that Spike Lee has kind of endured this Academy like hatred towards him in a way because Do the Right Thing lost to Driving Miss Daisy, and then Black Klansman loses to Green Book, and it's like
the same kind of like
which is
superficial kind of race stories, and he's actually kind of telling real.
Well, we're gonna. I'm gonna ask you straight up, Janine. Did you like Green Book? Honestly,
I haven't even finished Green Book. Like I started it and I turned it off. Like
and
then just to hear stuff from the family saying a lot of it was fabricated and that's not really how it was. Like that was kind of frustrating and problematic for me.
I saw the film before I heard all that bullshit, or not bullshit. It's probably the truth. I really enjoyed Green Book, to be completely honest with you. I really enjoyed it. I've only seen it the one time. I don't feel that it should have won over Black Klansman because Black Klansman wowed me.
Or Black Panther in that same year. But it's like two films that are actually speaking about race lost to a film that's like, well, racism is bad. Like, of course it's bad, but why is it bad? And and Green Book didn't tell us that, like Black Klansman and Black Panther did. I'll never forget when they announced Green Book and Chadwick Boseman just turns around and looks at Michael B. Jordan and just gives him that smirk, like, here we go. I guess Spike Lee got
I honestly I feel like that's a gift that will live on forever. That gift will live on where he's like, yo, we lost, but whatever, it is what it is. Yeah. And it sucks. It sucks. I'm glad, again, because not that I want to shit on the Oscars or anything, but, not every great film is going to get nominated. Look, again, and I keep going back to this film, and I don't know how you guys feel about it, but Just Mercy was completely ignored.
Yeah, I watched it last night for the first time, and that definitely should have gotten way more attention than it did.
Powerful film.
And it's probably the best I've seen Michael B. Jordan aside from Black Panther. Like usually, a lot of people tend to think he's pretty stiff and not,
I don't.
He doesn't have a lot of range, but I think he was great in this movie.
He was great, and it's a great fucking movie. It's a great film, but I don't know. I feel
let's bring it back. Let's bring it back to Spike Lee. So I think Jader, what your argument is that his Apex Mountain for you is Black Klansman. Where I'm sitting is I think his Apex Mountain for now is Do the Right Thing, but there's a chance that he hits another one later in his career. I don't know, Janine. How do you feel about Apex Mountain for Spike Lee?
I could definitely get on board with that argument for sure. I mean, I think this is his most popular movie, his most prevalent movie. The fact that 30 years later, we're still kind of seeing these things that he kind of was like smart enough and had the foresight to kind of highlight. And the fact that it's still going on today, like just kind of calls attention to how he is as a filmmaker, the things he thinks about, the things he wants to talk about and get out there, and his voice. I think this kind of speaks to his voice and advocating for these kinds of issues. I think that was kind of the peak of that, and then maybe a movie of his that shows that maybe the most. So I could definitely get on board with the argument that this is kind of his greatest kind of thing that he's done.
I think we should at least mention Malcolm X, because a lot of people I know.
I was gonna say, look, that not to shit on anything, but look, Malcolm X, and I love Inside Man, and Inside Man has a huge following.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's not.
No, but it's up there. I feel like it's up there. But Malcolm X, I feel definitely should be up there. And even you and I have been wanting to review the film. I haven't seen it in a long time. I think I have. I think I haven't seen that movie maybe like 8-9 years at least.
I just watched it during this quarantine, and it's it's a commitment to sit there for 3.5 hours. Yeah. Like he makes you sit, but it moves. It's powerful, and Denzel is
amazing. Yeah,
we're gonna have a conversation eventually about Denzel. What's his apex mountain? That's definitely gonna be in the conversation.
That's so tough. That is so tough, man.
That'll happen one day. We have 2 more things. I wanted to get to. Well, first, who won the movie? That's the one we usually wrap up on. Is who won the movie? To me, it's hard not to say Spike Lee.
All right. I mean, again, for me, I go back to Danny Aiello, because he was a powerful character. But I can't argue that Spike Lee didn't win this film.
Yeah, I think I agree with Spike Lee as well.
I can't argue that Spike Lee didn't win this film. He put himself as a central character, like I said, and it goes back to the question what I asked that we were going to talk. Did Mookie do the right thing?
That was going to be my next question. Is that's how we're going to wrap
the right thing?
Yeah, we can do that right now, actually, if you guys want, because Spike Lee has said that he gets this question a lot, and he only gets it from white people. So I think that's very, it says something right there. Did he do the right thing? Because this entire film, nobody does the right thing. Every single circumstance that happens, nobody does the right thing until the moment where Mookie throws the trash can through the restaurant. And that's where I want to throw it to you, Janine, first. Did he do the right thing?
I think he did. I get that anger in that moment, and you kind of see everybody, you see kind of everybody not really connecting the different races, the Koreans and all of that stuff. But in that moment, you even see the Koreans kind of outraged by what just happened. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's kind of similar to what's happening today with something like that. Definitely, while I'm not advocating for violence or whatever, I think it had to happen to be heard, to see that this was wrong. So it's not swept under the rug. So it's not ignored. We want you to hear us. We want you to know that that's not right, that we're angry about it. So I think that drove, and even kind of, I think it made me feel more like it was the right thing to do, seeing that him and Sal could kind of be amicable, because Sal kind of ultimately understood what happened was wrong and why he was angry. So I think the fact that Sal could understand, his whole kind of life is burnt down, but he can kind of understand why people were so upset. I think that also makes it a kind of a teachable moment, a learning moment for Sal, for most of the characters. So I think it got the conversation started, and I think that's why it was the right thing.
I mean, Jader, you're the one who's been throwing this question around. Wait, how do you feel about it?
Oh, yeah. No, honestly, yeah, I felt like you did the right thing. I always feel like you should voice your opinion on something you feel very strong for. And again, it goes back to where I thought about it for a while, especially today, since I knew we were reviewing the film and we were discussing the subjects that we were going to discuss. But I felt like, did he do the right thing? Did he, do that to prevent? Because if you notice when you're watching the film, everyone was surrounding Sal and the kid and his family, you know. So you don't know if he's doing it for because it's what he believes in or the bullshit that happened to Radio Raheem, or it was to protect Sal. But at the end of everything, I don't think it was to protect Sal at all. I think he was legitimately angry, and it goes back to the scene where Radio Raheem has the love and hate,
Yeah.
you know, and he's going and he's doing the whole monologue where he's pushing back and forth. And if you hear what Mookie says right before he throws the trash can, he says hate, you know, and it's because he's fed up with the bullshit.
And he made that choice
And
between the two things.
And he made the choice. And at the end of everything, Mookie's not a stupid character. You know, he's not a dumb individual where he knows that regardless of what would have happened, Sal's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Sal has the insurance to kind of fall back on and all that stuff. So I feel like he made the right choice. I think he did do the right thing, based on his beliefs. And I feel like, again, now more than ever, everybody should voice their opinions. And if you feel a certain way, feel that way. And yeah, I just again, I feel like he did it based on beliefs and not like no judgment toward no beef. I don't feel like he had any beef towards Sal.
Yeah, I think it just makes what happened harder to forget.
Yeah, it just made it harder. Exactly. Thank you for that. But it just made everything harder, and he did what he did because his voice needed to be heard, and that's what makes this film timeless. Timeless because
what if I don't throw the trash can through the glass? What are we gonna do? Are we gonna stand out with signs tomorrow and hold it and say like, no, Raheem shouldn't have died? You think about everything leading up to it. It's first of all, what's getting lost is this was the hottest day of the year, and clearly everyone was on high tension. So you just watched a huge fight happen inside the restaurant, and then you watch one of your brothers get killed, and you're just like, "Fuck this, I'm done." And he threw it through the glass. So if you don't do that, your voice doesn't get heard, and what you care about is not, it's going to get brushed over. So Mookie did do the right thing, in my opinion. You have to let your voice get heard no matter what the circumstances. And that's exactly how this film, I think, treats it, and it wraps it up very nicely. And then I guess there's cameos in other Spike Lee films that he is working for a Sal somewhere else. Spike Lee, our character Mookie, pops up delivering pizzas for a Sal somewhere else. So that's one of the questions I had on here, which we don't have to get into, was like, what's the sequel to this movie look like? I don't know. There's so many possibilities, but where'd Jader go? Jeez. But yeah, so he just completely knocked off my train of thought, and maybe his phone died. But anyway, Janine, do you have any final thoughts on this film?
I'm like I said, I love that it welcomes the rewatchability. You notice things that you didn't notice before, and then even just kind of with everything going on today, you see it in a different light. You see it in a different perspective. It's just really smart, well done. Like even with the whole thing of like kind of the vignettes of just kind of closing up on specific different races and them kind of letting out all the different slurs, as kind of like these little vignettes of seeing like how people think of each other, how people view each other without even really getting to know them. Just so many wise choices, so many intelligent things to think about. Just really smart, well done, thoughtful. Like it makes you angry, and you need to feel those things sometimes. So I really appreciate it for what it makes you feel, what it makes you think about, and just different sides of different people, different characters.
God damn it. This is Apex Mountain. Now talking about it, I'm like, this is it.
You were going to come around eventually.
Oh my God, yes. No, the thing, I literally think about this movie, and again, and it's crazy because a film buff, like I've seen a lot of movies in my life, but I never got around to seeing this. Like my family never saw Do the Right Thing. And when you guys met, or when Janine, you and Rachel, when you and Rachel Cushing mentioned this, I was like, "Fuck!" I kind of feel ashamed because I know it's a pivotal. I know it's a big film. I know it is.
Shame you into watching it.
No, I know. And when I finally got to see it, like again, the first time I was like, man, even the first time it impacted me, but it didn't impact me as much as I did yesterday. And now that we discuss it, I kind of want to be like, yo, I want to see it right now. Like as soon as we hang up, or I'm probably gonna watch it again. Yeah. And it's just everybody. There was no bad acting in the film. I feel everybody brought their A game. Spike Lee knew what he wanted to do. I was even watching like his camera angles on.
So many Dutch angles in this.
And it's great, You really did a great job with this film. And again, it's not that I don't want to. It's maybe because it wasn't my first Spike Lee joint. I think the first movie I saw, which was in middle school, which going back, it's a movie that I felt like I saw too young, was He Got Game.
Oh yeah.
Because there was a lot of like sexual things in that movie where I was like, oh shit. Yeah, I saw Ray Allen getting it on, and I was like, holy shit, like this is a lot, But even then, I loved He Got Game. I have a Ray Allen Shuttlesworth jersey upstairs and everything, like.
I watched it for the first time this year, like in January. So.
Oh really? Oh, there you go. See, I saw He Got Game back when it came out in like 98, 99. I saw that in the theater because my cousin took me to go watch it. So, but I think so. Like when you're talking about in every aspect, when you're talking about direction, production, acting, and all that, this has to be Spike Lee's apex mountain. It really does. So in the same episode, I turn around, which it never happens, but I'm gonna agree with you guys. Absolutely.
I mean, my final word on it to me is that, as we've mentioned so many times throughout this, it's so relevant. It holds up. When a film can only get better with time, that is very rare to see. And this film is one of those rare films that is part of that aura, that category. It's always stuck around. People are always mentioning it because it means something. So that's our discussion on Do the Right Thing, and that's going to wrap up the Jader and Kyle show, episode 9. This was a very important episode, and I'm glad that we did this. I had a great time talking to you guys. Janine, thank you so much for being a part of this.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. These are really important things to talk about.
It was overdue.
I was happy to finally come on your show, and this was really fun and a great discussion. So thank you guys.
Janine, do you have anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Well, I have my podcast feed with my good friend Morgan Robinson. It's the It's a Wonderful podcast feed. We have 3 shows on there. You can find them where all podcasts are found. We have Machine Mondays every Monday where I talk about all things Schmodown. So I think I'm going to get a little bit serious this coming episode, talking about kind of everything going on. I'll also talk about the most recent match that happened, but I will kind of delve into, me being a Black person in the Schmodown and kind of that perspective of kind of everything that's been going on. So I'll definitely delve into those things on this upcoming episode. And Wednesday we have Morgan Hasn't Seen. Morgan hasn't seen a lot of things, so I pick like a related series of films or like a franchise of films. Right now we are doing modern musicals. I make him watch them and we discuss each week. And then every Friday we have It's a Wonderful Podcast where we talk about classic films. So this most recent episode, we talked about Breakfast at Tiffany's. So just check out our podcast feed. Anywhere podcasts are found, It's a Wonderful Podcast. And we also have a Patreon, It's a Wonderful Podcast, on patreon.com. You can find it at It's a Wonderful One. We are going to be donating our Patreon money that we got for May to a Black Lives Matter cause, and we will be matching the Patreon amount, both me and Morgan, and donating that to charity. So.
Can I give a suggestion for the classic one? I don't know if you guys have done it yet. You Can't Take It With You is a film I just watched recently that I absolutely loved. It's Frank Capra, 1938, Jimmy Stewart. Watch it. I think that would be a great film for you guys to pull out.
We have this show existed before me, so I would have to double check, but I don't think it's been done yet. So I will have to. Yeah.
I look forward to it then. Jader, any last things you want to say?
No, just same thing. Don't be assholes. I'm gonna be as blunt as possible. This whole everything sucks. and I've said this over and over again for lack of better words because I don't want to cuss too much. But let's just be nicer. I know that's a very cliche thing to say, but um, love is gonna overpower all. And your opinion might be your opinion, and that's fine. But there's no need for hate. I'm going to try to take that word out of my system. Period. It sucks because again, we've gotten into the point where everybody, Schmodown and everything has gotten so political. Where, as repeated on this episode, we've been a common denominator has been film and trivia and just having a good time. You know, politics has never overtaken the Schmodown, and it has lately, and it just sucks.
Yeah.
So just try to just be better individuals. Don't try to get the politics, whether you're right or left, whatever it is. Let's remember the reason why we joined this page in the first place, or the Schmodown, or Cine Sports Talk, or what have you. Like, remember that we're all human. We're all entitled to our opinions, but you don't gotta be an asshole about it. If you really don't agree with somebody, and that's one thing that I've learned with the whole RB3 and RMB thing.
It's confusing.
Yeah, no,
Right?
it really is. It really is. But the whole thing for me has been like my mom's always taught me to, if you have nothing to say, don't say nothing at all. And I strongly, strongly believe in that. Where I don't feel like you don't got to be an asshole, or you don't got to make people feel this small because you disagree with something. You know. So let's try to just practice that. I know it sounds very cliche,
No, but it's true. It's true.
but it's true. Like I just want, and it sucks to say, I just want things to get back to normal. You know.
Well, that's the thing. Back to normal is, it's not normal is not good enough anymore. We're trying to, fight
To
for
be
something
better,
else
yeah.
right now, to be better. And what I want to say for the movement is, which something we're all a part of, is don't take our eyes off the ball. The momentum is with us. We can't slow down. You got to keep your foot on the pedal, and we keep going until change happens. And I'm saying, like, everybody, don't be silent. Now's not a time to be silent. Don't say anything terrible, but don't be silent. Speak up, support each other, be allies of each other. And things are going to get done in this. So that's going to do it for the Jader and Kyle show. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to us. And we'll see you next time. We'll get to Back to the Future next week, guys. Don't worry.
Jenny.
Yes.
Love you, girl.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Salute.